New Mexico is in uncharted waters as the state's COVID case count threatens to swamp the pandemic response and inundate hospitals. The governor announced new restrictions this week as she tries to keep New Mexico afloat. Here to work through them, the crew of the SS Line Opinion Panel this week. Line regular UNM law professor Serge Martinez is with us. Diane Snyder, she's a former state senator, also a Line regular here on New Mexico in Focus. And we welcome back on board a friend of the show. Haven't had him sail with us in many years, but now that he's back in town, it is terrific to have TJ Trout on again after many years. TJ is now, of course, the host of his own show on 96.3 KKOB, but also 770, the traditional place on the AM dial. Now let's look at the situation. Serge, I'll start with you. New Mexico could be in real trouble here. Is the governor moving quickly enough based on what you've seen?
I mean, the numbers are changing so rapidly, and it's so hard for me, to get a handle on things. So it's hard for me to really, obviously, with all of us, react rapidly enough. I think in any case, but I think the governor she's in a bit of a tough position in terms of reacting quickly and then having the numbers change and whatnot. But I think trying to dial things back, dial things down, and see what happens, that is probably the right move in this moment. We've had our ups and downs, and seeing how things respond to the different restrictions is I think probably sound policy. I think she continues to stress to the rest of us, hey, this is just because we have these restrictions doesn't mean you have to go out, but that we're not limiting it doesn't mean you have to go do X, Y, or Z. And I think that is a strong and powerful message that really should be resonating more with New Mexicans. I think it's good to see how much it does. And then if it doesn't, I would expect much more, stricter and rapid responses than we're seeing.
Mm-hmm. Senator, closing retail stores at 10 o'clock, museums, historical sites shutting down this week, of course. The retail stuff I want to stick with for a second at 10 o'clock. What's your initial reaction to that and how you feel that is a tool to get on top of this COVID?
I guess my first thought was, well, that sounds okay. But then I thought, well, who's out there shopping after 10 o'clock at night?
In Albuquerque, not many.
Yeah, in Albuquerque, because so many things were closing earlier at the beginning. So we kind of got accustomed to that. The second thing I wondered about was, what about companies that like the big box stores or the grocery store, they stock at night. Are they excluded from that, or are those people, there were just a lot of strange questions that came to my mind about it. I think it's okay to do it, but most restaurants and stuff aren't staying open later than that. The stores aren't staying, and I guess I'm just not seeing, and maybe somebody could point it out to me, I'm not seeing how that will be really effective and keep that many people from not being exposed. So that was kind of my thought about it.
Mm-hmm. Hey, TJ, the idea that the governor has that, state procedures, you're going to have to halt operations after an employee tests positive for COVID. That's not new, but, to have 4 rapid responses within a period of 14 days, they'll now have to close for a full 2 weeks. That's a difficulty for businesses right off the top. But is that a sufficient enough way to beat this back? I ask again.
I don't think we even know what a sufficient enough way to beat this back is. I'll tell you what, if a business has 4 rapid responses in a row like that, I think, quite frankly, you got to look at the business. And you got to go, okay, what are you guys doing wrong? Are you not following the rules? What's happening at your business? I mean, what do you do? Mm-hmm. I'm going to turn this around onto us, not you, Gene, but
sure,
or anybody on the panel. But I mean, this is all on us, man. I mean, I would hate to be the governor of any state right now. I mean, what an awesome challenge this is. But the responsibility of all this is in our hands. It's in our hands what we do, and it's somewhat dismaying to me that again politics is playing so much into the science, and this is becoming politicized, and people are taking sides, digging in their heels. I mean, just again, we know what we need to do to knock this down. We're just not doing it. Wear the damn masks. Stay away from people. Wash your hands. I mean, it's been said to us over and over and over again. I just don't understand why it's. Well, I do understand why it's not getting through. It's not getting through because there's push from above.
Right, right. Hey, Senator, I've got to throw in here, we get letters and calls and things, and you hear it, and we all hear it from folks who are not crazy necessarily about the governor's approach on this, and that they feel like, she's laying out a lot of blame on people, blaming restaurants, blaming retailers, blaming, all kinds of folks about how this is actually going down. But for a lot of folks I'm talking to, they don't hear enough about her accepting enough blame, that's a tough word, but accepting enough responsibility perhaps, for not getting a message out there a lot, wider, deeper, more well understood. How much is she at fault on this?
I think that because nobody really knows what we need to be doing is that every governor, including ours, is grabbing or grasping at any straw, any suggestion that will really make a difference. I mean, yeah, it seemed to me that we were awfully strict on the restaurants because they, within their association, had come up with ways that they could provide service, but protect both their employees and their customers. In fact, those were the standards that have been pretty much implemented to allow them to open at all. So I think each industry has a better idea than perhaps people in Santa Fe or else city or wherever, is to make recommendations. And I think for a while, the governor's office wasn't in the departments and whatnot. We're not working as closely with the specific industries. Mm-hmm. That's where I kind of fault her a bit. Then once she started doing that, once they started doing it, then like with the Restaurant Association, since they were so front and center, it started working. And I've gone a couple times to restaurants where the last time I got to sit inside, but the first two times I sat out in a tent area, and it was wonderful. But it gave me a feeling of freedom that I had not had. And like everybody else, I have been getting claustrophobic. I feel like I'm not accomplishing anything.
Right.
So I think that so far as blame, I don't blame her for doing what she thinks is right and what her experts are telling her. What I think is, for your expert, I've got an expert that will tell you something different.
Right.
And so I think we're struggling. Like I heard the governor of South Dakota yesterday, and they've done a remarkable job up there. And they've done bare minimum kinds of things. But then you look at the territory and you go, well, maybe they don't have enough people that are exposed and getting around each other. So
I would say that might be up to a little bit of dispute about South Dakota about how well they're doing, considering their numbers have been a little punky up there.
It's who's telling me the numbers and who's telling me the numbers.
Right, right.
So,
Serge, I got to get Serge in here. We're just getting a little short on time. Yeah. Sorry about that. Serge, we got to get in this idea of jails and prisons. And what's going on here? The Metro Detention Center had a big spike. We've got, immigration centers we got to throw in there as well. This is a tough one for the governor or any governor, as TJ mentioned, because the idea of letting people out of prison for any reason drives a lot of people crazy. And if you throw in, well, it's going to be safer for all of us for COVID, a lot of folks don't quite can put that together and understand how that works. What's the governor supposed to do about the jail and prison population?
Well, I mean, first we have to acknowledge she doesn't really have that much control over those sorts of things. But those who do, and she can certainly influence, right? I mean, it is just very clear that jails are, especially jails, right? Prisons have a little bit more control over who comes in and who comes out. But our jails are, they're have a very transient population. And one of the key things to just keep that from happening is to reduce the number of folks who are getting arrested or, processed for lesser violations, and to really just embrace the idea that, we do not need to be rotating people in and out a place where they don't have control over their movements, where people are crowded together, where we don't know who's been where and been exposed to what. And it just really requires doing some math and saying, do we prefer to have people, locked up for shoplifting, or do we want to have them, have less chance of them being exposed and propagating this in the community, right? And where you draw the line is an open question, but
right.
I think we need to revisit those sorts of rates of processing people and incarcerating them.
Mm-hmm. And TJ, to continue with this, it's a difficulty. Trespassing, why does someone need to be in jail? In my understanding, APD has marching orders that says, look, let's not bring in people who have warrants for small things, they have misdemeanors, they have whatever the case may be. But politically, that is an awfully tough thing to do, isn't it?
I was just going to say that. I mean, that was my answer to Serge, was the fact that in this political climate and looking at the crime statistics for Albuquerque and for New Mexico, I don't think you're going to find much popular support for doing that, for doing it that way. I think the problem is going to have to be solved by figuring out how to isolate people who have the virus somehow, who are incarcerated. I don't have the answer to that. Mm-hmm. But truly, I think politically, I don't think you're going to see that happen. I think you're going to still see people get arrested. Just looking at this realistically, right now, I don't see that happen.
Right, I hear you. We'll have plenty more to talk about in the coming weeks and months for sure. We'll have to leave our COVID conversation there. This group looks at what's next for Santa Fe after activists yanked down the controversial Plaza Obelisk last week.